5:30 p.m. I'm very pleased that you have taken time to join us this evening. As the Judson Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals and policies and oversee the management of the district. We are responsible for approving budgets, contracts, personal appointments, and to listen to reports from the superintendent. We are not here to make administrative or management decisions pertaining to the daily operations of the district. This is the responsibility of the superintendent. In compliance with the state government code on open meetings, tonight's agenda has been appropriately posted. This is a meeting in the public, not a meeting of the public, and as our guests, you are welcome to observe and listen. These proceedings are being video and audio recorded and will become part of the Judson's permanent legal record. In order that the tape adequately reflects these proceedings, please silence your mobile devices and refrain from talking with others while others are speaking. Since it is legally mandated that these proceedings are recorded accurately, I may have to ask for order periodically should I notice that the disruptions are interfering with our recording capabilities. Once again, I extend to each of you a sincere welcome from the entire school board. Thank you for your interest in Judson ISD. We have established a quorum, and if you will, please, board, press your buttons and let us know you're here. Oh. All right. At this time, we are going to turn the meeting over to, is it Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
To Ms. Davis for the taper report. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, members of the board, senior staff, and Dr. Ball. Today, we are here to present our taper report. The district is required to provide a public hearing of the Texas Academic Performance Report as required by our Texas Education Code. Please note that this hearing is being held within the 90 days of receiving this report as required by TEA, and our report has been published on our website since we first received it. The components of the report that we are required to share with you are listed on the slide, and you're going to hear some of the same components that I shared with you in the August accountability presentation, but I think it's worth noting that some of them are worth touting, some of them are worth hearing again, and some of them are areas of opportunity for growth for us. Our accreditation status. In December, you heard from our CFO, and he shared with you our first rating, which was an A superior rating. And for our accountability rating, as reported in our taper report, we received the highest rating possible, which is that of Met Standard. We are accredited. Our district received a Met Standard rating, and we received a letter grade of a C. Now, currently this year, only the districts received a letter grading, and next year our campuses are going to receive a similar letter grade, reflecting just the campus score. We are at a 2018 Special Education Determination Status of Needs Assistance. When you look at all of the statuses, we are at the second status. The first status is MEET. The second one is Needs Assistance, followed by Needs Intervention, then Needs Substantial Intervention. We are at the second stage. One of the things we'd like to share with everybody are the campus distinction designations. Out of our 20 elementary campuses, half of our campuses earned at least one distinction. You can see that Crestview earned all 6 stars, which are the possible amount of distinction designations that a campus can earn at the elementary level. And we had 9 other campuses that earned 1 distinction or more compared to their 40 similar campuses that TEA designates. At the middle school level, we had 2 of our middle schools, Judson and Woodlake Hills, that earned at least 1 distinction designation. And at the high school level, we had 2 of our high schools who earned a campus distinction designation, with JECA, or Judson Early College High School, earning all 7 possible distinctions. There's 7 distinctions earned at the secondary level. There's 6 possible distinctions earned at the elementary level. We have Veterans Memorial with 2. So we're very happy to share these with you. This year, we're currently working on earning more and having more of our elementary campuses earn those designations as well. Our student information here is summarized for you. We have our percentage of economically disadvantaged students, which is 63.4. 9% of our students are English learners, and 73% of our students are identified at risk. You can see the ethnic distribution across this table. You can see our comparison to the state. And we also have our students enrolled by special programs. At bilingual, we have an 8.7% of our students enrolled in that program, bilingual ESL. We have 28% of our students enrolled in CTE programs at the secondary level. We have 77% of our students enrolled in gifted and talented, and 10.6% of our students are enrolled in special ed. This slide shows the teacher ethnic distribution, and this slide is compared to the state because we like to show how our ethnic distribution here in JISD mirrors the state, but you will also see that the teacher years of experience very much mirrors the state, especially within the 1 to 5 years, as well as our more veteran teachers mirrors the state. We are very happy to report that the teacher turnover rate at Judson ISD has been the lowest it's been in about 12 to 13 years. We are actually below the state in the teacher turnover rate, and that's a very good thing. We dropped 1% from last year, so we are very excited to share that we are continually implementing processes and systems in the school district to ensure that the turnover rate continues to decrease. When we get to our academic piece, our reading did show increases in every grade level when we're talking about STAAR. STAAR is 3rd through 8th grade. EOCs are at the high school. So every grade level, our 3rd grade had a 1% increase, our 4th grade had a 2% increase, 5th grade in, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong slide, 2%, 6%, 3%, and 2% increases in all grade levels 3 through 7. In grade 8, we had a minimal decrease, but we currently have some interventions in place for the campuses, as well as we're working on our curriculum with our teachers so that we can ensure that our reading is more targeted for our students and that they receive the interventions necessary. I would like to state what approaches is as defined by the state. Approaches means that a student has passed the test, but they still need some interventions in order to be successful at the grade level, at the next grade level. What you see here is the mathematics score in grades 3 through 8. Again, this is our STAAR test. We see increases all across. We did see again a minimal decrease in grade 8, but we're currently working at that. We're happy to see that the grade 7 cohort is now in 8th grade, so we do expect to see some gains in 8th grade this year. In writing, we see that there's a 1% decrease in 4th grade, but yet we saw a 2% increase in 7th grade. Writing has always been an area of focus. It is combined with our reading, and specifically this year, we implemented diagnostic writing samples at the beginning of the year and middle of year so that we can know specifically how to support each student. We're looking at next year combining our 6th and 7th grade to have our teachers teach reading and writing, not in isolation, but we know that these are skills that our students need to be taught together, and they need to write about what they read and read what they write. In science, we see that we remain steady in grade 5, but we did have a decrease of 2% at the approaches grade level. Now, you're going to see something interesting when we get to the meets and masters, because again, approaches is they've met, but they need some interventions. But when we get to the meets and masters, you're going to see some pretty good increases. Last but not least, we have social studies. Across the state, I will say that the graded social studies test is pretty low scoring. I was having a conversation with our social studies specialist, which is important to note. There was no social studies specialist at the time that this came out. So we now have a social studies specialist who is providing us support for our teachers and is helping implement our curriculum to ensure that our TEKS are well implemented. The 8th grade TEKS in particular have a greater depth. And so there's a lot of breadth in the 8th grade social studies compared to the 11th grade, which are both the same topic, but we have U.S. history in 8th grade and in 11th grade. You see a much better scoring in the 11th grade. Now we're looking at our STAAR end of course at the approaches grade level. And again, I'm talking about the approaches, meets, and masters because that's how it's broken down in the TAPER report, and that's how I'm required to share it with you here. We saw increases in all of them. We see a 3% increase in English 1, 4% increase in English 2, a 4% increase in algebra, 1% increase in bio, and we remain steady within U.S. history. But when we go to the meets, you will notice that there is a steady increase in the meets. In all subjects, we saw an increase of 3%, 2% in reading, 5% in math, 4% in writing, steady in science, but a 6% increase in social studies. So that's an anomaly that we're seeing across the state, but one of the things that we are noticing is that our teachers are able to go more in depth and are able to help our students not just be successful there at that grade level, but meets is defined by the state as being able to have that content knowledge and receive minimal interventions at the next grade level. Here you see the STAAR percent at masters. You will see and again, when we're talking about STAAR, that's 3rd through 8th grade. For all subjects, we did see a 2% increase, 1% increase in reading, 2% in math, 2% in writing, 4% in science, and 5% increase at the master's grade level at social studies. And master's is defined as being completely on track to be college ready and needing no supports to be successful within that grade level. Our Student Success Initiative means that our students in 5th and 8th grade receive 2 administrations. They receive one early on, and then if they are not successful, they have another opportunity to pass because this is a gatekeeper test. Students need to be able to pass 5th and 8th grade reading and math in order to move on to the next level. And what you see in this slide are our comparisons to the state. The first part of the slide that you saw was the first assessment, and the second part that just showed up in the monitor was the second assessment, and you can see how the scores increased there. What you have on our next slide are our attendance rates in our school district. Our attendance rate, our annual dropout rate is at 3%. It is higher than the state, and it is an area opportunity for growth for our school district. We currently have some interventions in place that I'll talk to you a little bit more about as our presentation continues. Our graduation rate that we're looking at here for the accountability purposes is our 4-year longitudinal rate. What you see, the state takes a look at only the students who graduated on time, which is our 85.2, but it also adds, not for the accountability purposes, but for us to take a look at students who graduated, who received that's the new name for our GED, who continued high school and then of course dropped out. When you add that, our graduation plus the students who continued and who received their GED, you're looking at a 91%, but please keep in mind that for accountability purposes, our state uses that 85.2%, which is that biggest piece of the pie chart you see right there. Our college readiness indicators, we have 35.5% of our Judson High School students who completed and received credit for at least one or more advanced dual enrollment courses. It's important to note that there's about a 3% increase from the previous year. Please do note that this data is a little bit behind because it takes the state some time to receive this data. So what you're looking at is data from 2016, 2017, but that's how it's reported in our TAPER. We also saw a 2% increase in our students who tested AP and IB examinations, and there's a 30.5% of our students who took these exams and met or exceeded the exam criterion. Now, something new that you will notice is that military readiness, college, career, and military readiness. Again, a little bit behind in our data, 2016-17, but the college, career, and military component of our accountability system is made of subcomponents. And so one of them is the college-ready graduates. And it takes a look at these 4 criteria that are here. And then each of those criteria receives a component score, a percentage score. And then you have the second component which is the career and military graduates. Again, with 4 individual criteria for this component. And you can see the score there at 9.1% for JISD versus the state. And then the state takes these 2 components of college-ready graduates and career and military graduates and gives us our overall score, which you see up on the screen, of 38% for Judson ISD. Now, this data on this next slide is even a bit older. And again, we are required to share this with you. It would be a little bit outdated, but it is students from 2016 who graduated in May 2016 and who enrolled in a Texas public, important to note here, Texas public higher education in the fall of 2017. Please note that some of this information is hard to track, again, which is why it's pretty far behind. You see the number of students who enrolled of our Judson ISD high school students enrolled in a 4-year public university. But take a look at the number of students who were not found, who were not able to be tracked. So this is information, again, that we are required to share with you, but just because they weren't found does not mean that they didn't particularly enroll in a public university. They're just not able to be found, not tracked, or they may have enrolled in a private university. We're also required to report to you the number of violent and criminal incidents as reported by our school district. Our Texas statute requires every district to publish this report. What you see here is a slide of the reports that of the incidents that we reported. And what is important for us is to note what it is that we're doing about it here at JISD. So what you're going to see are some of our interventions. We have a district crisis management plan that addresses our policies, and within that plan, the procedures require for us to have a campus emergency operations plan, our student code of conduct, periodic safety drills, periodical safety meetings with each campus crisis management team. We have our director of pupil services who meets with the leader of each campus emergency operations team at the beginning of the school year and as often necessary. We also have periodic safety audits that are conducted at each of our schools and district facilities. We also have a Raptor system that's used to identify our visitors and anyone who should or should not be on our campuses. We have a Judson ISD Police Department and our Pupil Services Department that meet periodically to unify our emergency responses throughout Judson ISD. We also have adopted a student code of conduct that sets forth the rules and expectations for all of our students. And something that we're offering you this year for our students who are placed in DAEP for the first time for the offenses, they have the option to substitute their placement with professional counseling sessions offered by the Roy Moss Family Counseling and Resource Center. Our Judson ISD administrators are also required to thoroughly investigate bullying. They receive training on David's laws. They receive a thorough administration packet on how to properly go through a bullying incident. We also have our bullying alert system. We know that these cases are becoming more and more common across the state, across our nation, and so JISD is doing their best to be ready and to address these. We also have our guidance and counseling department, who is working with social emotional learning, character traits, providing counseling lessons for coping skills, counseling services, peer mediation, anger management, positive behavior rewards, and we have our social worker services. It's important to note that our guidance and counseling are also part of our discipline and our students who identify any needs in the social emotional piece. This is our presentation for TAPER. At this point in time, I would like to note that the TAPER reports are available in our Judson ISD website, and if you'd like to receive a printed copy, you can ask for one at the front entrance of our ERC. Also, I'm required to inform you that our campus improvement plans can all be found at each of our district websites. They're not just a plan, they truly are a plan of attack. And this is something that we review with our principals, that we review as a leadership team to ensure that we're doing our best to provide everything that our students need. For further contact information, please feel free to contact me, Cecilia Davis, your server. And I would like to thank, aside from the senior staff, all of our directors that helped put this together. Our Director of Pupil Services, Mr. Marcus Anthony, our Director of Testing and Accountability, Ms. Nicole Taganaw, and Ms. Rebecca Defenbar, Coordinator for Accountability. At this point in time, does anybody have any questions?
There are no questions. Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Thank
You
you
did a
very
good job. At this time, the special meeting is adjourned at 5:51.